We lost, in the last few days, we lost Mr. George Perez, legend in the comic book industry. And just I guess maybe a little over a week prior to that, we lost Neal Adams, another legend in the industry. So that's two legends in, less than 2 weeks. It's a bummer. But, with George Perez, we kind of, that everybody knew that was coming. It doesn't matter how much it's coming, it still sucks. But real quick, I wanted to touch on both of those guys. So yeah, Neal Adams, trailblazing comic book creator who helped bring about some revolutionary changes to the industry, died on April 28th at 80 years old. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Adams died on April 28th in New York from sepsis. He's survived by his wife of 45 years, Marilyn, his sons Josh, Jason, and Joel, daughters Chris and Zia, and then several grandchildren and great-grandson named Maximus. That's pretty cool. Josh said, "It wasn't until I sat at tables at conventions next to the same people I would watch treat my father with such reverence that I understood. He was their father too." Neal Adams' most undeniable quality was one that I had known about him my entire life. He was a father, not just my father, but a father to all that would get to know him. Neal Adams graduated high school in 1959 and started working for Archie Comics, where he worked on Ben Casey, a daily comic strip. By the late 60s, he landed at DC and began working on titles such as Action Comics and Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. During his tenure at DC, Neal Adams helped create, launch, and introduce a number of recognizable characters to fans. He's largely known for his iconic Batman run with writer Dennis O'Neil, which revitalized the character with a darker tone compared to the Adam West television series. So, I mean, you have to give the guy praise for the Batman that we know and love now, because in the 60s, Batman, even in the comics, because the TV show was such a big hit and everybody liked it, everybody watched it, that they made the comics match that more closely. So Batman was doing goofy shenanigans and stuff in the comic books. So Neal Adams coming along and saying, no, we're going to bring him back to his darker roots. We're going to make him more of a detective again. He's not going to be getting in all these silly shenanigans. It was crucial to get Batman to where he is now. He created Man-Bat, Ra's al Ghul, and his daughter Talia al Ghul. He also revamped Green Lantern and Green Arrow with Dennis O'Neil. The two of them debuted John Stewart, fan favorite Green Lantern, for the first time in 1972's Green Lantern number 87. So much to thank this guy for. He also worked for Marvel during the late 60s and 70s on X-Men, the Avengers, and more. In 1984, he founded his own publishing company, Continuity Comics. One of the biggest contributions to the comic book industry that Neal Adams was responsible for was he was a huge advocate for creators' rights. He was instrumental in helping Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster secure pensions and recognition for creating Superman. If you've seen the video that's on the actual fandom channel, it's called like Exploring Superman's Working Class Roots. It really goes into how DC was, I mean, they had just kicked Siegel and Shuster to the curb. They were not, worried about paying them any kind of anything. They were, in fact, there was a point when they had removed their names from Superman comics, and that if it wasn't for work that Neal Adams did, they would never have gotten a pension. They still did never get as much as they should have, but they at least got a small pension. And he made sure that their names will always be in the byline of Superman comics, so that their names are always tied to Superman. Because, so without him, none of that would have happened. His son Josh said, "My father was a force. His career was defined by unparalleled artistic talent and an unwavering character that drove him to constantly fight for his peers and those in need. He would become known in the comics industry as one of the most influential creators and champion social and creators' rights. When he saw a problem, he wouldn't hesitate. What would become tales told and retold of the fights he fought were born out of my father simply seeing something wrong as he walked through the halls of Marvel or DC and deciding to do something about it right then and there." So, just can't express how much respect and appreciation we should have for Neal Adams. More recently, George Perez died at age 67. Legendary comic artist George Perez has died, his family announced Saturday, May 7th. According to a message on his Facebook page, he passed away Friday, May 6th, peacefully at home with his wife, Carol. He was not in pain and knew he was very, very loved. So those are both good facts to know. I mean, it really was cool to, obviously unfortunate that he got sick, but like from the moment a few months ago that it was announced that he was terminal, I just saw constant, enthusiastic love and praise heaped on the guy, and he was seeing it happen. So that's good to know that he knew how much he was appreciated. Born June 9th, 1954 in Puerto Rico, Perez got his start in the industry in the early 70s at Marvel, penciling backup stories in titles such as Astonishing Tales and Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, in which he co-created Puerto Rican superhero White Tiger alongside writer Bill Mantlo to celebrate his own heritage. I did not know that. He quickly moved on to become the regular artist of Avengers for over 20 issues. He co-created Taskmaster and drew part of the Korvac saga story, which is one of his first major storylines. Oh, on the most recent Avengers issue, number 55, there's a heartfelt tribute to George Perez. I have not seen that. I'll have to get that, and after the stream, I'll buy it. Titled George Perez, Once an Avenger, Always an Avenger. The uncredited page features Captain America at the team's longtime headquarters, Avengers Mansion, silently raising a glass to Perez, joined by Wonder Man, Hank Pym, Iron Man, who raises a bottle of spring water. It's a nice touch. Beast, Janet Van Dyne, Sam Wilson, Carol Danvers, who was then called Warbird. She's also drinking spring water because I guess she also had a drinking issue. Yeah, he was known for his impressive detail and multiple characters. Yeah, so you look at like several comics. I mean, like for one thing, he did JLA versus Avengers, where just you're drawing basically a whole bunch of those famous characters all in like one splash page and so on. Yeah, he was the guy for that. He basically invented the idea of having buttloads of characters on page at one time, and each of them looking great. None of them are like drawn crappy or haphazardly or anything like that. Each one of the figures looks terrific in those images. And then there's also going to be an all-star tribute to George Perez to be published in all of the DC June titles. All of them. So DC will celebrate what would have been the 68th birthday of iconic comic book creator George Perez the entire month of June, with a special 2-page spread honoring one of the most beloved figures in the comic book industry. It's illustrated by a multi-generational all-star roster of artists, including Alex Ross, Jim Lee, Todd McFarlane, Colleen Doran, Dave Gibbons, Dan Jurgens, and a whole lot more. And the image will feature all of the DC characters Perez was best known for drawing over his career in an homage to his signature style. Really, really good. And then you got the man himself here. Freaking awesome. Oh, yeah, look, you can see Alex Ross style standing out like a sore thumb there, but that's okay. Otherwise, it's pretty well blended as far as the styles incorporated. Man, that's cool. I might have to get a poster of that. But mad respect to both of those men. Will always appreciate what they contributed to the industry, the medium. It can't be quantified. Like the amount of influence that those guys had over comics broadly, there's no way to like sit and list every way, just because it would be incalculable.